All right.
So, I like this. So go ahead.
All right. Let's well, first let's introduce ourselves. I am Darrell Davis, resident of Dothan. Been here all my life. I moved, went away, went to college for a little bit, back, and here to just help. That's my mission. You know, I'm 45 years old, and hopefully I got 45 more years on it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my name is Sean Curry. I'm a resident of Dothan, Alabama. I was born June 6, 1972, and I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Glasgow.
I'm Pastor Glasgow, born in Brooklyn, New York. Been down here since I was about 13, 14 years old, Dothan, Alabama. Born in 65, so I'll be 50 this year. And just a servant of the Lord. Pass it on to Master Moody.
Yes, I am Mansa Moore. My real name is Christopher Cruz. I live in Dothan, Alabama. Been living here since the beginning. I moved out for a little while, but I came back. There's a lot of work to do here. But we all about empowering our people so we can overcome this oppression that we're living in. And whatever it takes, and whatever it is necessary, we're willing to fight. And I'm ready to fight. The Bible say pick up your sword and shield. And it's our time to pick up our sword and shield so we can get what's rightfully ours.
That brings up something too. You know, Jesus told him, he said, at first Jesus was telling him there, he said, you know, don't fight, don't carry no sword, don't carry this. And then, you know, there's a part in the Bible, I'll give you the scripture in a little bit. Y'all just hold up, wait a minute. And it says that he told him, he said, remember I told you don't have no sword, don't have nothing. He said, but now I tell you, if you got a shirt, go buy one.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in the Bible. So he told him it's a time for us to go and fight. So that's what the declaration is when we say restore. Somebody say restore.
Restore.
When we say restore, we have to realize that part of restoration is cleaning out the house. You know how when we do spring cleaning, this and that and other? We got to start calling out some stuff and addressing some stuff from the inside first. We got to clean it from the inside out, not from the outside in.
So that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. So we just had the MLK March.
Right.
That was Monday.
Right.
You know, celebration, annual celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all the work that he did.
Right.
And for this city particularly, you know, Dothan, Alabama, we noticed that there was some discrepancy. You know, some people talking about the fact that there weren't any white people invited.
That's right.
And included.
Right.
In the march.
Right.
So let's talk about that. Okay, first let me ask a question. How important is it for people of all ethnic backgrounds to be included in the human rights and civil rights movement?
Well, I think that is very, very important because if you just got one group of people or one race of people, then what you have is a protest, an assembly. What makes a movement is when it's diverse, when there's more than one culture, more than one race, more than one set of people that's fighting for one particular issue. But people who are not directly impacted or oppressed, helping to come fight those who are impacted and oppressed because they see it as wrong. Even though it don't directly impact them or affect them, they still see it as wrong against other human beings. That's very, very important. And that's what Dr. King stood for. What really got me was when a lot of black folks started coming to me and calling me and was very upset with what took place. I wasn't even, I'm not going to say I wasn't aware, but I didn't want to be critical at all because, you know, everybody, oh, they go Glasgow. But, you know, so many people have come to me with their disappointment of what happened and how it occurred. We haven't had time to talk to all those involved, don't know who all that committee was, who all was involved. But, you know, in years before that, right, we always made sure, I always made sure, other people always made sure that it was very diverse. And, you know, that's one of the biggest problems we have with this one as well as it seemed to be one particular group that highlighted itself instead of highlighting what it was about, and it was about Dr. King.
Anybody else want to speak on that?
No,
Yeah.
no. I don't have a
Okay, well, so for the people who would say, you know, particularly for blacks, African Americans, or non-white, as Sean would say, and I'm sure he's going to get into that, we have to do for ourselves. Because what about the aspect of the ones who would say, all right, I mean, it's good to have everybody involved, but you know, we as black folk, there's going to come, there's a level that we have to stand up and say, we've got to, like you were saying, clean up our own house.
That's right.
We're going to have to do for ourselves. And then a lot of times when you get too many people involved with varying backgrounds or with varying ideologies, they tend to mess up the progress that you've got going so far. So I guess the follow-up question is, those who would have been involved, would they have the same agenda or the same goals as those people who are fighting, marching for the freedom?
But that's a great question, sir. And here's a great answer. If you are a people that have a certain agenda or need, cause, issue, those that come to help you must do what? Conform to helping you with your great need, your cause, and your issue. So their agenda shouldn't even be a factor in your cause, need, or issue. And one of the biggest things that I think that we do as a people, more especially black people, is we relinquish our power.
Yes. Yeah.
First of all, we don't realize the power that we have internally or externally. And we relinquish it not realizing that it's our power. I think that there is a great thing that we can learn from the movie Selma, from any other kind of movie, from people sitting together in a diverse conversation and discussion. When people are there and they are standing their ground, not to argue or debate, but for clear discussion on this is what we need. Because let me tell you something I've learned. White people do not know what black people go through. They don't know.
Yeah.
And black people don't know what white people, we don't know. We haven't had the white privilege. They haven't had the black dilemma. You know, so when we sit there honestly, you know, without all the pleasantries, and be very, very honest about what's going on, I think it better helps us understand what human rights is. So when you involve people into these type things, guess what? It gives them a better understanding. I sat up there and watched the mayor watch Selma. And while I watched Selma, I watched him and his reactions. And some of the stuff, I've been knowing the mayor all 13, 14 years I've been doing T.O.P.S. But there's some things that bothered him that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't watched him do it. I watched other people. Judge Conway's son that was there. And I seen his reaction. You know, some of the things that we go through, people that haven't lived that life don't know. How will they know if we don't sit down to the table with it? How will they know if we don't sit down and discuss it with it?
So, but have people been sitting down with them? I mean, don't you think that, I mean, and I'm not trying to start a debate, because I'm trying to get into a direction here. Because, of course, there have been people who have discussed the issues, right? And I've discussed it with some people, and one of the feedback that I get is the fact that we destroy ourselves. You know, it's the thing that we'll stab each other in the back. You know, we will, if one person gets to a certain level, then there's always somebody coming behind him trying to get what he's got and more, claiming things for their own, taking a handful of dollars.
That's right.
To sell us out.
That's
right? Now, that's destructive on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you witness a people like us doing that to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then the question becomes, why should I help a person that is destroying, people that are destroying themselves?
Let me give you a story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling no names. So
Mm-hmm.
don't nobody try to figure out who it is. Don't worry about who it is. Think about the story and what it is. A person told me that they went to run for office, for some elected office, right? And when they took out $150,000 out of their war chest to run for this office, they took $100,000 to spend in the white community, took out $50,000 to spend in the black community. They spent their $100,000 in the white community to run for office, put it out advertising, campaign stuff and all that. When they got to the black community with the $50,000, you know what they said, Chris? They took $45,000 out of that 50 and put it back in their war chest. You know why? We were so divided in the black community that they was able to take $5,000 and divvy out $200-300 here, $200-300 there, and ended up getting the whole black community. Why? Because when we don't unite amongst ourselves, we devalue ourselves. So that is clearly what's going on. Two of the biggest problems I see is one, we won't unite together. We always trying to take your idea. You know what I mean? We want to take what Darrell Davis is doing. If Darrell Davis comes out with hands over fists, you know, we want to take it and say it's my idea. Oh, come on now.
Yeah,
if Kenneth Glasgow come out with something, we want to take it and say it's my idea instead of just helping you with it. You understand? So those are the things that are happening that's hurting us. It's hurting us when you got people that won't come together. United we stand, divided we fall. I hate to use the cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you never come out with nothing that's originally yours. And you're always vying for money.
Right.
If it, you know, one of the things somebody told me that if money is your motivator, get a job.
Yeah.
You
work. Get 3 or 4.
You know, and if you just want the glory, at least do the work. You know, that's theft of service.
Yeah, definitely.
When you want to take somebody else's work and capitalize off, that's theft of service.
And deceptive.
It's very deceptive.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening, you become a misguider to the people, misleading the people, and think you and don't even realize it because of your own selfish agenda. I suffered that myself.
Yeah.
I can speak to that, honestly, because I suffered that. I almost killed my own movement and moves I was making by making sure I was in control of everything until I realized this thing way bigger than me. I can't do this.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, we all need money, or we all need to sustain a way of sustaining ourselves. But it's how you go about it. I think that's important.
But I'm not going to sit up there and take your money,
right. Well, I mean, yeah.
And then don't even invite you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disrespect you or your money like that.
Well, I mean, but that goes back to
all me.
How a person sees himself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because see, it's some people who feel that they've got to be tricksters. You know, that they've got to do things that aren't morally correct in order to get where they need to go because of the way the system's set up or the thing that they've experienced.
Oh, man. So you saying they can't just be the king of the ace of spades. They got to be one of the jokers.
I mean, they got to be. It's really how you see the world. I mean, you know, and it goes back to the psychological aspect. You know, where we are today. Because realistically, if we had stronger value, we would be, all of us would be doing things differently. And we would be respecting one another, loving each other, and doing what we needed to do to build the community and ourselves. We wouldn't see ourselves as a part from the community, you know, away from the community. We would see ourselves as a part of it. And I think Sean and I talked about this earlier. We will be working to build the whole, the collective up instead of just ourselves. You see what I mean? So
I got it. You just reminded me of something. Gabriel Sayer at Drug Policy Alliance. We was working together 2003, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We was up there in Montgomery, and I'm gonna put this out here. So a guy, Richard Cole, is over the Southern Poverty Law Center. You know, he was dealing with Gabriel, this and that and the other, and was like, yeah, I don't know if we want to deal with Glasgow and all that. And Gabriel said, well, I'm not going to use white privilege. I'm not going to use white privilege. Glasgow's our state partner. He got to come in the door with me. And it came to a point where I said, Gabriel, I cried. I was like, Gabriel, I mean, this is the most progressive group in America. Look how much money they got. And you telling me they don't want me? And he was like, and Gabriel cried. And Gabriel said, now is the time for you to choose, Glasgow. I said, what? He said, choose whether you want to be a civil rights leader or a civil rights star. I said, well, God told me to do human rights. He said, well, choose whether you want to be a human rights leader or a human rights star. Some people got it mixed up.
Yeah.
They think that leadership is celebrity status.
Right.
And being a leader is a celebrity. You know, leadership means that you empower others.
More so than yourself.
More so than yourself.
More so than yourself.
You know, leadership means that everything you do is concentrated on, fixed upon, and efforts upon helping others.
Right.
Sacrificing yourself.
And that's why
not building yourself.
And that's why people get it mixed up, and that's why we're misled, I think, as a group or as a people, because you're looking at the person who's out there up front, who's always on the news, whose face is in the paper, who is doing all of this, who's got the car, and you know, everybody's pushing. But see, you could get misled by that, because is that person or those people really working for the betterment of the community? Because when you get to a certain point, when you get to celebrity status, then that means that everybody's pumping your head and pumping you up and holding you up. And you're being looked at as a trophy or a symbol of something, as opposed to the person who's really working in the dirt, you know, on the streets, in the grind, doing what needs to be done. And it's easy for us, the ego, it's easy for us to get misled with that. Because as soon as we start getting that celebrity status, especially if we always wanted it, we start falling into that trap.
Well, I felt it. Let me speak for me, then I'm
and we'll move
let
on.
y'all move on.
Yeah.
I fell into that trap on 2 occasions. One reason I fell into that trap in the first 10 years, Chris, and I'm telling you as a young brother, because I had to prove myself. I'm an ex-drug addict. I'm an ex-felon. I'm an ex-this. I'm an ex-woman beater. I'm an ex-adult. I'm an ex-whatever you want to say.
Exactly.
And at this point now, I'm unembarrassable. So you can come at me with whatever. That's my testimony. My stumbling blocks became my stepping stones, as my brother said. And give him credit for what he said. And I learned that in all that, after I got to a point where I was confident in me, to where I don't have to fight you or nobody else for what God told me to do. And that my sacrifice of me is my deposit in the heaven, is my gift that God gave me, is my job and my epiphany and everything he called me for. I stopped trying to be on top and in the lead and in this and in that. Because you know who usually finds themselves in the lead?
The one that's in the back.
The best follower.
Yeah, got to.
The greatest follower always seems to find himself in the lead.
Right.
So, in the ending of this, what I would say, if you really want to check your motives, your intentions, then troubleshoot what you're doing.
Right.
And the way you troubleshoot it is, who is it helping? What is it helping? And is it helping more than just you?
Right. Let's switch gears and let's get the other brothers involved. I'm gonna ask you a question, Chris, then I'm gonna ask Sean a question. You being a younger brother, at least younger than who we are, what do you see the differences are between the way the older generation thinks as brothers and the younger generation thinks?
I think it's kind of twofold when it comes down to my point of view of it. First, I always seen the older generation sticking together. I mean, they stuck together. They, whatever they did, like my grandmama, she had 9 other siblings, you know, and still to this day they stick together. You know, it's hard to divide them because it was so much controversy around them that they had no choice but to stick together, work as a team, to be one, because they knew if they got separated from each other, then actually they would be attacked, and then when they got home, they would have to be dealt with by their parents, by their ancestors, see, because they held them accountable for each other back then. Nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, it's the total opposite. Every man for himself. even brothers turning against sisters, and sisters turning against mothers, But and so we've adopted this gang way of life where we say to ourselves, my mama ain't do this for me, my brother, my daddy ain't do this for me. So I joined this clique of people that I can truly say for myself is my type of people. That's my favorite color. Blue is my favorite color. I like all the fellas in this thing. We stick together, and not realizing that you have to make a sacrifice to get to what you want, not recognizing that you have to start doing heinous crimes or ignorant things in order to get this so-called name that you want yourself. But then at the same time, I see it as the older generation also did not understand what they were caught up in. Like I really take a lot of things and I go back to the Willie Lynch syndrome, which bothers me the most when I look at us as black people. I mean, because Willie Lynch promised his people, he said, take it to your children, and I promise you, if you adopt this, it will keep them bound for at least 300 years. So when I was listening to you guys talk about, why, even adding another person into your agenda, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not necessary. Because simply, sometimes that person will come in there like they on your agenda, but they only want to hear what your agenda is about. So they can take that and do something with it to vandalize it or destroy it. And because Willie Lynch, he put it out there very easily. And if I can get our younger people to really read about Willie Lynch, it's some older folks out there that don't know. Because the other day I was with my granddaddy, so that's what I'm saying, it's twofold. The other day I was with my granddaddy, and we went out to his sister's house, and we began to talk about what's going on with black people. And I was saying, y'all don't know nothing about the Willie Lynch syndrome, y'all don't know nothing about the story, and they looking at me like, what are you talking about? And these are older folks, they older than all of us sitting in here, and they don't understand that this is what was done to them, you know what I mean? But while he was talking, I pulled it up. I was reading about the Willie Lynch syndrome. It simply said, he said he had a foolproof plan for controlling your slave. He said, top of the list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, then there is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantation, status on plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on a hill, the east side, the west side, north side, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of the differences, I shall give you an outline of action, but before that I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect or admiration. So the black slaves are receiving, wait, I got lost. Well, right here it says, the black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, will carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black man versus the young black man, and the young black man against the old black man. You must put the dark-skinned slave versus the light-skinned slave, and the light-skinned slave versus the dark-skinned slave. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have white servants and overseers, right? Which are these people that we want to put in with us, right? But we don't need to put them in with us right now. We rightly need to get ourselves together as one, keeping these folks out of our business, out of our agenda, and then once we all on one accord, then we can go out and say, come in and help. Then that way we can be looking at them while they doing their thing and saying, is their agenda true or is their agenda against us? To see if they're our friend or really our foe. Because there's a lot of them out there with smiles on their face, riding cars with us, acting like they friends, but they go back to their friends and they tell them what we're doing so they can divide us more.
Let me ask you a question.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Let me get shy out of here, man.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's talk about organized religion.
Organized religion.
its effectiveness, has it served us properly where we are today? Or has it kept us enslaved, basically like the Willie Lynch syndrome?
Well, first, what you have to understand is that the only organized religion on the planet and surrounding the planet is the system of white supremacy itself.
Alright, so that's part of it.
Okay?
Shoot them down. Shoot them down.
That's the only organized religion.
System of white supremacy.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you use the word organized. Now, there are a lot of religions out there, and if we study the etymology of religion, it means to bend back or reconnect to. Well, reconnect to what? You see? What we should be reconnecting to are the laws of the universe, what we discussed earlier.
I like
About
that.
causality,
I like that.
cause and effect,
I like that.
action, reaction. Because there's only two things that can happen in this universe. Either something's on or it's off. Either you're pushing or you're pulling. Or either you're up or you're down. Either you're supporting the system of white supremacy or you're not.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? So, there's no other organized religion other than the system of white supremacy. Everything that comes under that is within the system itself. So, and I hope that makes sense.
It makes sense, but elaborate for it, because here's what I see. I see not only in this city, but really all over the country. I mean, you have people who stand behind the banner of their religion, but there's a disconnect between its structure and what they're going through.
Well, that's because of what he mentioned earlier about things being divided. See, with me, I tend to broad brush things. I'm not really concerned with, not immediately in a way, but I'm not really concerned with what happens in the state of Dothan. Which is why I told you earlier that I really don't know what's going on because I don't pay attention to stuff like that. See, my thing is, and you talked about people having an agenda earlier. What we have to ask the question is what are people's ultimate objective? Because that's the only thing that's important to me. What is your ultimate objective? At the end of the day, you can say you're a drug dealer or whatever, or you can say you're a Christian. There's only three things that I want to know. It's what's the name of what you do? How does what you do affect me? And how does what you do affect me when you interact with me? Like, other than that, I really don't care what your agenda is. It's because my ultimate agenda is to eliminate the system of white supremacy and replace it with a system of justice. But before I do that, we have to have a definition of justice. I told you can't take away something without replacing it with something, right? The definition for justice that I'm using is to guarantee that no one is mistreated. Okay, that's part one. Part two is to guarantee that the one that needs help the most get the most help. That's my ultimate objective. Anything that they ask us to polarize ourselves around after that, I'm really not concerned about it. I'm not concerned about who's a politician or a Democrat. I'm not concerned with, who's a, Republican and all this and that. I mean, that to me, that's something to have you polarized around so that it causes you to be further confused.
Distractions.
Religion is a distraction to me. Okay? Because if you're talking about Christianity, that's to be crystallized into oneness with Christ. Okay? So why you got so many denominations of it if you're one?
972.
Yeah. And it tell you,
Denomination.
yeah.
Denomination.
And it tell you that a divided house can't stand.
746 in Islam.
Right. And even in Islam, why you got the Sunnis and the Shiites and you don't need all that, which is what Prophet Muhammad attempted to do. He attempted to unify all of it. That's what he's famous for.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So now we
And
know.
he died of a heart attack as a result of it.
Wow.
Stress.
From stress.
Wow. So, but
That's how powerful the system of white supremacy.
But you know what? I think we're tapping into something. Because number one, what we're finding out that no person can do it by themselves.
People.
So we have to combine efforts. We have to combine our.
It depends on what you're doing. Like, what are you calling it? We can't do it by ourselves. What do you call it?
We
It
can't.
depends on what you,
This is what I and
because
this
I
is what I
gave
see.
you my objective.
we can't
So,
we can't make the type of changes individually that need to be made in this city to be effective for everybody. Ultimately, because there are two things, and this is realistically what I like people to see. To be effective, first of all, you gotta identify your goals, identify your objectives, what it is that you want to do.
sure.
All right. Then you have to have a program and a plan to get from where you are now to where you want to be. All right. So it's going to take people coming together, having dialogue, conversing about what's going on, and coming to some agreement that number one, we're not where we say we want to be.
Right.
Okay, and that it's going to take some effort to get to where it is we say we want to be.
Well, that's why I keep talking about code. See, I don't care what we decide to do. You have to have a way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what you're talking
Yeah.
about. The problem is with so-called black people, is that we have so many different agendas.
Yeah.
And it's the equivalent of me throwing 5 balls at you. You're not gonna catch all of them.
Right.
It's impossible. If I threw one, you can catch it.
Yeah.
Okay? If I don't care, like if you in any organization just to be rich and get money, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what you're there for, then that means that you're gonna do the things that's necessary to get money. Okay? Even if it means biting and scratching over your brother to get it, whatever, stealing, robbing to get it. And logically, that's what you're supposed to do, because that's what you're there for, to get money.
Right.
Okay? If you're there to shine shoes, whatever your reason is, then as soon as we walk in the door, that's what you should be there. I should take off the shoes and give them to you to shine. Okay? Just depends on what you want to do in the organization. Okay? Now I don't care, but the organization itself has to have a purpose. And just what the Bible says, if without vision, the people do what?
Perish.
They perish. Okay?
But let's look at that. Let's look at that right there, without vision.
We need the overall purpose.
So we need an overall vision.
Yeah.
You need an overall purpose, an overall mission statement, because like you said, everybody's so divided. Okay. So if the ultimate goal, let's just take the city of Dothan, not the whole nation, to make it too broad.
Right.
If the ultimate goal for all the leaders in the city of Dothan, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, is to build Dothan, then we need to all come sit down, like you say, Darrell, come up with a plan and execute that plan. Now, the problem is here, we will sit down, come up with a plan, and when it comes time to execute that plan, I'ma like what you part and don't want to do my part because I like your part better because it's more glamorous, it's more sexy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And nobody wants to do the unsexy part.
Right.
You know, nobody wants to do the administration part in the background, and you know, everybody gonna want to fight for the TV cameras and who's gonna do the news, who's gonna do that. So it becomes unsexy. So it gets back down to the point of leadership. What's your intention? What's your motive? And who are you doing it for?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If I want to upbuild my family, one of the things that they did in the Bible in the old times, we'll say, that we don't do now. I'm talking about the black race. We don't build for the next generation.
Right.
You hear black mothers and fathers say quickly, I don't know what you do when I'm gone. I'm spending all my money before I go.
Yeah.
But you know, other races and cultures don't do that. They build for their next generation. You got people now who say, look, I'm a white person. I didn't have nothing to do with slavery.
Right.
I ain't have nothing to do with what my forefathers did. But guess what? You still living off that money.
You still
Exactly. Right.
You still enjoying the benefits. And you know, and we have to understand that it's not their fault. It's ours.
Hold on. It's everybody's fault. Because let me say this. We can say that it's not their fault, but as long as they continue to carry that torch.
If they carrying that torch. Now, what he said is this system is white supremacy. Now, listen now. Viola LaRusso She did what? Went against that white supremacy and died, gave her life for black folks. The priest who they died. You know, so many white folks are getting their life. I'm gonna tell y'all something. In my travels throughout the country, if y'all paid attention when this Michael Brown thing happened, when this Eric Garner happened, it was more white folks got out there against what was happening than it was black.
It was a lot
you understand?
More
a lot more over there in France, England, everywhere. You know, and what we have to realize, let's not stay so convoluted. Let's not stay so convoluted to Dothan.
Yeah.
We have a lot of white people in this city that are tired.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're not going to sacrifice their lives, and we can't even come together to stand up for ourselves.
And that's the entire point. That's what I'm getting to. Because how are you going to make a step and get to where we need to go without first setting the foundation and groundwork? And see, like you said, and I agree with you, there are a lot of people who don't want to do the work that's necessary and involved. Now, I firmly believe that there's a solution to any problem.
Okay.
You know, there is a solution to any problem as long as you put the right elements together. Okay, first of all, there are a lot of people who want to do the background, administrative, research, all of that is some who are qualified, right, and equipped to do that work. Yet, we have not developed or established a program for them to do it. Because now, it's one thing to do something because you love it, and then it's a whole different category to do something and get paid for doing it. Now, when you look around at the city of Dothan and who's in these positions, you know, we're talking about diversity. The city of Dothan has to be one of the least diverse administrative cities that I've seen. Okay? And then
break it down.
Okay? When I go and visit all these administrative offices, there are more white women.
Okay.
And
but
let me finish.
My problem is the personnel director is black.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about.
Why we don't have black people?
Hey, hold. Let me finish. And that's a good question. You know, and you. All right. Here's the thing. I mean, and I don't want to get off into the psychology of that. Okay. But the point is, I mean, we talked about it. We always have a token Negro. You know, in position so it could take the pressure off of the full examination of what's going on.
There you go now.
You know, that's excuses. Because as long as you got one person with a black skin with a white mind,
that's oppressive.
You know, that's the gatekeeper.
Ooh. Sure.
That's the gatekeeper that can turn everything around on his or her people. You know,
listen to this.
So how do we change that?
Let me answer your question. We put people who are going to represent us that are picked by the people instead of the administrative heads for us. We pick people from our community to be put in those positions that can give back and help us.
But what about those that we pick, that we put in, and they get into this system? And then they conform.
Well,
see, the system ain't gonna fail itself.
Well, here's the thing.
The system will cover up corruption, evil, wickedness, especially the criminal justice system.
But here's the thing.
Whatever it needs to cover up.
I'd rather have that person in position than a person who we know is not for us. I mean, at least get a person that has a track record. Or who has proven that they care about the people. A chance rather than somebody who say, damn the people.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you know what you get going in.
Really, you know, I think it was Ramsey, one of them said, we got to choose people who are godly. Because if they're godly, then they will be people. So I'm going to agree with him on that. We have to do it, but one of the first things we got to do is, like we started off, we got to first come together amongst ourselves. Yeah. We got some real internal problems within our own communities that we got to address. We got the ADC, that's the strongest, the Alabama Democratic Conference is the strongest organization in America. I didn't know it till I went to Washington. I've been in the ADC for a while. I'm going to show you how. They got more black people in office than any other organization ever existed. Any other organization ever existed.
Okay, now let me ask you.
The reason a lot of black people across the nation are in office is because what Dr. Reed and all them did here in Alabama. They the ones get filed a lawsuit long time ago. I don't know when it was and all that. We got to get Dr. Jones and them to come and explain it to us. That started getting black people as elected officials.
Okay.
All the way to Washington. So that's why I say that.
Right.
But I'm saying that for a reason. Even though we got the strongest political organization, we got all these churches that get out here and say, no, come to me. Let me put you in office. Not realizing, first of all, that's illegal. Because the church ain't supposed to be putting people in the office or endorsing them. And second of all, not staying in your place. So it goes back to that crab mentality you was talking about. Goes back to Willie Lynch, what he was talking about. Goes back to what I was talking about. That if all of us come together, we still won't stay in our lane.
No, that's what I just said. Like, okay, the only thing I want to know is what are we going to actually do?
Okay.
Now you said build Dothan. Okay. Now, build Dothan from what to what, first of all? When you're building something, that means you're erecting something. That means that means you're making something. Okay.
Build don't come without destroy, brother.
Yeah, I know that. Well, it's destroyed now.
Yeah.
You said builds, okay?
Right.
Build
That's
it from what? From destruction to what?
Restore.
Okay. Now, and I mean it in a literal sense. Like what are you planning on doing? When you say build Dothan, are you talking about building people's minds? Are you talking about building buildings? Are you talking about building?
It's not either or. It's both and.
Okay.
Larry Johnson.
But you gotta do one before the other.
Well, let me say this. Larry Johnson, to his credit, came up with, me and him sat down together. You remember Darrell? And came up with what? The neighborhood restoration. And he's an architect like yourself, Sean. You know that. And he made this whole plan on how to rebuild Dothan, and he put up Lily Apartments, this and that and the other. And I was to build the people in the mindset, this and that and the other. Miss Amy, Miss Nan Pitcher was going to do it also. Then Quality of Dothan Chamber of Commerce came in. Pastor Joe Johnson, all them was going to do it and all. And then what ends up happening is you build these great edifices, great buildings. We doing the same thing with J. Mars now. But until you change that mindset, you take a hole out the mud, clean them up,
Have a trap hard, yeah.
put them in the necktie,
But it's still hard.
keep them in the immaculate house.
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
Come on now.
I mean,
Okay,
like
so-
I said, the system. We have to.
So, no, please talk, because it's your turn.
I believe the only way, we want to make a change, but we have to start with ourselves first.
That's it.
I was listening to the Muslims talk, they say to themselves, you can't go next door and try to tell your next door neighbor he can clean up his yard. He said, first you have to get yourself as a person in order. Then you have to get your wife in order. Then you have to get y'all kids in order. Then you have to get y'all house in order. Then you can go next door. And once you persuade the next door neighbor to do the same thing that you did, which is get himself, his wife, their children, then you start spreading out. And then once the whole community is on one accord, right? Then we all go out as a community to the next community. We don't go out to the community and separate and go to all communities. We go just to one community, attack one community. We're straight the same way. You know what I'm saying? That's pure common sense, though.
Right.
Okay. Then you have to add what information am I giving to these people? Is it 100% true? Is King James 100% white? Because a lot of people think he white. See, but it just comes from information that's been given to us. You see what I'm saying? Because most of the information that we got right now was given to us by our oppressor.
Right.
Okay? And so now we learn these things. Now before we go out and get ready to tell these folks about these things, we need to make sure that what we're talking about is true. Not in no shape, form, or fashion with any, prejudice in it. It's just telling the facts.
Right.
Okay? Then you have to realize that this country itself was not built for us. If we built this we built it, but it wasn't put together so that we win. Okay, I got this I just got, I don't know if y'all done read this, but this man right here, this is Brian, he uploaded this. This man right here, this white man talking about 400 years head start and advantages.
Right.
Have you watched that?
I put it on my page.
I
Yeah.
watched it when you said
I
that.
put it on my page.
But
Yeah.
hold on, cause she ain't gonna stop. Hello?
But the things we gotta look at, man, is coming together. So we got what you asked, Sean.
But coming together to do what?
We gotta the build Dothan.
We just gotta come together first.
But the first thing is getting us to the table together, brother.
Yeah, what I'm saying is coming together for what?
To build Dothan.
Okay.
And building Dothan
How?
consists of building ourselves, our mentalities, our way of acting toward each other, our way of unifying, and then our living, our education, our economics, and all that. But the
so you're
first
saying
step
dealing with the
is
people
coming together.
first.
You got to. You got to.
Okay, so when you say rebuild the people, you're talking about rebuilding the mindset.
That's it.
Okay. Well,
That's it.
Well, now,
Because see, once you build the mindset of the people, Nehemiah stood on the wall and they told him, do not come down, build that wall, rebuild Jerusalem. We got to keep building that wall. That wall was a mindset. Them people sat up there and watched the deterioration of a wall that set Jerusalem apart as people that belong to God.
Right.
And they lost their independence. They lost their confidence in who they were. They lost their identity.
And exactly. And that's part of what I see. Because there's a lack of value and understanding of who we are. Because if we are beat down, generation after generation after generation, you got people walking around like zombies who are blind, who really don't know who they are. So, this thing to me is a spiritual thing. And once you infuse love, first of all, love of self that reflects and radiates and touches other people, it's like a fire that catches them. So, and the things that we're doing, they're not set in stone in and of themselves too, because they're going to transform. They're going to grow the more we get together and share our energies and experience things and share our mentalities, because it's not like we know it all now. Because if we did, we would be out there.
And we wouldn't be on the
We wouldn't be right here off film.
We're talking about.
And so, but I firmly believe though that if we open our minds, open our hearts, God will give us the direction that we need to go.
Yeah, we did.
As long as we unify. Because this thing also, a lot of people talking about how bad it is, and part of what we're doing is sitting here talking about how bad it is. But the good part about that is that once we begin to converse, dialogue, reach out to one another, the universe will support what we're doing.
Exactly.
Things will transform automatically because we're on the same page, seeking the same things, and declaring and decreeing the same thing. God himself or herself will stand up and support what we're doing. The element.
And that's what it said. If you want to be friendly, you want to prove yourself friendly, then be friendly.
Yeah.
So in order for us to start unifying, the first thing we got to do is start supporting what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Going to them. Because some people don't have, some people have developed a hatred for self.
Right.
And your hatred for self make you hate me without a cause.
Yeah.
I know people that don't even like me, don't even know me.
Right.
Never even spoke to me, but I heard Kenneth Glasgow. I'm unembarrassable now. You get that loud?
I don't like
I had a lady.
I don't say anything,
Hey.
but you know what I tell them? I like, well, so far, I don't say. I see you a good guy.
Hey, I had a lady. I got to
You
tell
got
the
a
story,
record.
Darrell, real quick. But I got a good
Track
record.
record. No,
I got a good track record.
I'm saying, like, you got not a record, but a reputation.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or false, you got one.
But the
That's
good
what
part
I'm
is
saying.
I'm unembarrassable.
Hey, but everybody got a routine.
Everybody. But I had a lady one time. It was me, my mother, and a few others. And this lady was talking about me like a dog. That Kenneth Glasgow ain't this, he ain't that. And he doing this and he doing that. I'm standing there.
Wow.
And the lady said, yeah, I just got high with him last night. I was with him last night. And so my mom, I'm looking at my mom, and I'm standing there. And so one of the people in the crowd said, Kenneth? Yeah, I was just with him last night. Yeah. Said, now you know him when you see him. She said, yeah. And the dude said, well, that's Kenneth Glasgow right there.
Wow.
No words.
And the woman couldn't say nothing. So, you know, people here suffer from hearsay.
Sure.
You know, but what we have to do is get beyond that. I've gotten to a point myself to where it's time for us to do this. And it don't matter how you feel about me. It don't matter how I feel about you. What matters is what we got to do. Now, if you in my way of doing it,
Yeah. You gotta go.
You got it.
You gotta
I'm going to call you
You
out.
gotta be addressed.
You're going to hate me even the more.
Yeah.
But know this, that when you become a hater, you are also my propeller.
Yeah.
Because you give me more publicity than anybody else to do what needs to be done.
And let me say this on camera. Let me say this.
Advertising.
Look at here. Black folks, white folks, whoever you are. When you start being effective, that's when people start coming out trying to attack you.
Exactly.
Because they want to stop the work that you're doing. Anytime you see somebody being talked about and talked about and talked about, they're doing more work than you're probably doing. They're doing more work than you know of. Find out why they are being talked about.
Wow.
Find out. Don't just buy into it.
That's right.
Don't just buy into it. See for yourself. Because that's what's happening to us. When people are working and working and working, all it takes is one little something
That's right. That's right.
to smear their character.
Yeah.
And people buy into it.
Yeah. Well, we, you know, everybody know what we're doing. We don't even have to talk about it. But the only thing I want to say is one thing. Restore. Somebody say restore.
Restore.
And we got to restore our families, restore our communities, restore your block, and that'll restore somebody else's block, restore our city of Dothan, and let's all restore ourselves. Restore.
Restore. Restore.
That's what it's all about.
All right.
Okay, so basically, what we're doing is